I would now like to take a moment to recognize the contribution of an additional member of our Assembly for whom this will be the last annual session. Senator Ben Cardin has announced that he will not seek re-election in November and will therefore leave the US Senate next January. Senator Cardin has served as our special representative on anti-Semitism, racism, and intolerance. He has also served as chair of the Second Committee and as vice president. At this point, I will take Secretary General Montella to take the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, I'd like to invite you, Madam President, to join at this podium, and President Emeritus George Serratelli to also join me on the podium a second. Madam President. So, it's always sad to say goodbye to a colleague and a friend. Today we say goodbye to the longest serving member of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. He has held public office for 58 years, never lost an election. I think some of us may want to seek advice and counseling. Member of his delegation to this Assembly for more than 30 years, attending more than 20 annual sessions, and very often as head of delegation. In our Assembly, he has served as member of the OSCE PA Bureau, chair of the Second Committee, served for 6 years as vice president, a strong and vocal voice in combating anti-Semitism, racism, intolerance as a special representative since 2015. He has made sure that our Assembly speaks out on the most important issues, including presenting the first resolution condemning the Russian brutal actions in Ukraine in 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, please join me in welcoming Senator Ben Cardin. Senator, dear Ben, thank you very much for your friendship, your support, your advice. I will miss you. We will miss you. You are leaving Parliament. I know you're not retiring. We will always count on your advice. You've been an example on how we should conduct ourselves in public service. So you have the floor to say a few things, and we have a little testimony for you. Please.
Roberto, thank you very much for those very kind comments. I was trying to count up as to how many annual meetings I've attended. It's somewhere around 24, so I've been to many of these meetings in the past. But let me just underscore how important the work that we do here is for our country and for our people. I think back about my career and some of the issues I'm very proud about. We just had in the third committee the adoption of the supplementary item on anti-Semitism. I've been the special representative, as Pia has told you, on anti-Semitism, racism, and intolerance. And I think about how that agenda got started. And it got started right here at an annual meeting with resolutions that we adopted that brought attention to the scourge of anti-Semitism. It led to the Berlin Conference in 2004, but it was the Parliamentary Assembly that started it. And it's the Parliamentary Assembly that's kept that issue in the forefront, recognizing we still have a lot more work to do. And it's the Parliamentary Assembly that has shared the best practices and legislation that we've adopted in our various states, and it's the work that we do here. And then I think of Sergei Magnitsky. I chaired the U.S. Helsinki Commission. I've led our U.S. delegation on several occasions, and I think about the work that we did in adopting that legislation. That legislation was adopted in the United States Congress. I authored the bill with the late Senator John McCain, and we made it global with my help of Senator Roger Wicker. We were able to get legislation passed, but it's through the Parliamentary Assembly that we were able to get that legislation understood in Europe and UK, and they passed their own versions thanks to the work we did here in the Parliamentary Assembly. And now that's one of the premier sanctions legislation to advance the agendas of the Helsinki on human rights. And then I think about trafficking in persons. That started here in the Parliamentary Assembly. It was the Parliamentary Assembly that first brought up the fact that we had to do more to stop modern-day slavery. And it led to the enactment in the U.S. Congress of the Trafficking in Persons Report. That came out of the Parliamentary Assembly. And then, as Roberta has told us, our support for Ukraine started here in 2014 with a resolution that we passed because we can get it done. Because we're a democratic institution. We vote. And we vote by majority. And we get policies adopted. And we keep a spotlight on it. So the work here has been so helpful in my career. And I thank you for recognizing me today. But it's been a labor of love to work within the Parliamentary Assembly. I now chair the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, United States Senate. My term does not expire until January of next year. The work that you're doing at this annual meeting will help direct what we're going to do in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So thank you for what you do. It's not easy to take time away to come together, to work together, but it makes a difference. We get things done, and I'm proud to have been part of this organization for these number of years. God bless.
There is a book. There is also a book.
Oh. So nice.
Your history in the assembly.
All your history in the assembly, news from Copenhagen, all your press releases, and all the photos you will find out.
Something to read.
No more.